But it's not like you need a certain amount of money or a certain type of gear to get that symbiosis. If you have a cheap guitar and a cheap amp and you spend enough time with it and you treat it as one instrument, you're going to get something cool out of it.
Hello. We are in exactly where are we? Like in North Hollywood? Or
North Hollywood.
In the valley, or
Correct.
yes, which is, are we in San Fernando or
San Fernando Valley?
San Fernando Valley, SFV.
SFV? Cool. And I'm in the house of the Ruff brothers, which for the first time I ran into you guys was actually in Nashville, if I don't recall.
Yeah, Summerdale.
Yeah.
It was pre-COVID days.
Yeah, it was.
It's all a blur.
Anyway, so yeah, you are working with the sound theory.
Yeah.
And you're working as a freelance drummer mostly.
Drummer, producer, engineer.
Yeah.
Yep.
And you're also doing engineering.
Yeah.
What I wanted to talk about, because I know you've been moving around a little bit before. You are originally from Ohio, you said. Yeah. So you studied in Spain.
Yeah, so I went to Berkeley College of Music in Boston, and then I did my master's at their campus in Valencia, Spain.
Cool. And what's your background, musical background?
Musical background, just kind of bedroom guitar player, bedroom studio guy. Education, electrical engineer. So all the nerdy stuff that has to do with circuits and whatnot.
You came together here. You moved directly from Spain here.
Yeah, so I think you were a month or two ahead of me.
Maybe. Yeah, he was finishing up school in Spain, and we got the biggest U-Haul we could get. Yeah. Which they surprisingly let you drive even without a trucker's license. So we booked it from Dayton, Ohio, all the way across country. Yeah. And we had all the gear in there. Well, a lot of this is gear we picked up out here, but moved out here, and we've been out here almost 3 years, a little over 3 years. So yeah.
And what was the initial plan with coming here? Was it like to get your foot into the music industry, or?
Yeah, I think, pre-COVID, it was definitely like you kind of had to be where things were happening, right? And then we all kind of discovered remote work, and it was a little bit easier to kind of work with anyone around the world remotely. But in terms of learning about, especially like how they used to do records in the past, I think you have to find those people, meet them, talk to them. So I've kind of always wanted to live West Coast to meet the people that are still out here and get their story and learn how they did things. So that was sort of always the goal for me, just live out here and learn as much as I can about the industry that's, still left. So
what's your age difference? Or
between us, we're 5 years. So I'm 31
and 26
and he's 26. So, but he is taller and his hair is longer. So
don't tell him, Bert.
Yeah.
It sounds like a winning concept. You partnering up with you having like formal musical education, you having
I can't read music at all.
The technical education, like with the
I can read schematics.
Yeah. Electrical engineering is an art that is kind of lost in being an audio engineer.
yeah, definitely. Yeah.
And it's very, very useful, especially if you're gonna have one of these beasts. Yeah, you came here approximately 3 years ago. Pandemic hit, and you said you found out more about remote work.
Yeah.
And how does that work for you? Could you do drum sessions and stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Honestly, I got more work when the pandemic started because people lost access to recording studios. That was during when I was in my undergrad degree. And because at the time we had a home set up, I got some clients, and it continued from there, and it's grown. But nowadays, we definitely prefer to do stuff in person. I mean, you have so many guitar amps here. We can do reamping, but we've learned, it sounds way different when you plug straight into an amp than when, someone across the world tracks into a DI and then you send it here. Sounds.
That's a rabbit hole for me. I think as a guitar player, an electric guitar player, the amp is a part of that instrument. Yeah. And like, nothing against like amp sims and stuff, but like when you play through a rig that you're familiar with, like you'll palm mute with a different type of aggression, and like you get that feedback from it, like literal. And so it's always we can like Sam said, we can reamp, but it's like you always have to juice it back up again. And it's like if you would just come over for 30 minutes and play that riff, like
you'd feel the air being pushed in the room.
Oh my god, it'd be incredible. Yeah. So
I mean, that's the thing you said, like pushing air in a room. It sounds so much like a cliche, but it's also so so true.
Yeah.
It's like a totally different thing.
I think finding that sound early on and committing to it is like, that's what makes the part what it is. Because if you're just kind of, I'll get the technicals of my playing perfect and I'll figure out the tone later, you're leaving out a good chunk of that equation that could have been, you know, helpful to get your playing to a different level. But yeah.
And you, as an electrical engineer, can you confirm that also electrically a guitar with passive pickups and the amp, are they like
I love passive.
feeding off each other in some way so that it's different from
I mean, this is sort of my pseudoscience take of it. Anything that is magnetic, I think there's something special going on there that we still haven't figured out. So pickups, right, magnetically picking up the field of the not electrical strings, the metal strings, right? But on tape machines, that gap in the head, that's magnetism. Transformers, right? There's either an oil gap or an air gap in all those transformers. Like anytime you're going from electrical to E field to the H field, you know, and you do that jump, something special happens there. Whether it's a degradation of the signal and you get some imperfections, but to me that happens on every speaker, right? Even if you're entirely in the box, at some point, whether it's your AirPods or your speakers, there's a fucking spider and a little electric, you know, transducer that's doing some type of magnetic thing to get it to push air. So I think I don't even remember what the question was now, but yes, passive pickups for sure.
But will the amp and the guitar work in some symbiosis depending on impedance and stuff between each other?
I mean, impedance is a huge thing, but it's all, cause it's like I build a couple of amps of my own and I'll plug my guitar into it and I fucking love it. And somebody else comes over and they plug their guitar in and it's like, this isn't happening. It could just be the guitars, like the pickup height might be a little too low, or the string gauge is different, or they're just not digging into it as hard. So
also you're left-handed, so traditionally you're a negatively charged being, whereas a normal human being.
Sam's got a bias towards the left-handed people, but mostly just me. But no, I think you're totally right. Like but it's not like you need a certain amount of money or a certain type of gear to get that symbiosis. If you have a cheap guitar and a cheap amp and you spend enough time with it and you treat it as one instrument, you're going to get something cool out of it. Like it's going to be unique to you. And I think that's the thing that, like, at least like the genre of music that we like, that you don't often think about, but like if you're a Terrace Martin or like a Miles Davis and you have your horn from 1950s or 60s that you like, that is your baby, and you spend like every waking moment, like that's where the symbiosis comes from. And like you can give that. There's all those stories of people picking up Eddie Van Halen's guitar through his rig and they sound nothing like EVH.
It's the player.
Yeah, it's just the amount of time you spend in. And I think that's not even with guitars and shit. It's with gear.
It's everything.
Too. If you've only got, you know, PreSonus gear and it's a compressor and an EQ, if you spend time with it, you can come up with killer stuff with that. Like it's just, you got to figure out what that gear is good at and not good at.
I mean, the end result is probably not the issue, depending on what technology you're using. It's just how comfortably you get there and how inspirational it feels.
Yeah.
I think what you said about uniqueness is the biggest thing for me. It's like, if everybody has the same, you know, XYZ amp sim or plugin or interface, and that's just the in thing right now, then you're more likely to sound the same as everybody else. But I think even if it's a $20 pawn shop amp, you can get some tones out of it that no one else has. And for me, that's what's interesting.
And they can be awesome.
Yeah, exactly. It's like getting a unique sound to me is more fun and more interesting than getting a sound that everybody else has.
Yeah, and you can go down the rabbit hole. Like some of my favorite amp builders, Ken Fisher, who did Trainwreck, and Dumble, right? Alexander Dumble. Those guys would approach the player and say, I've watched you enough. I know how you play. I know how to build an amp that will supplement and add to that playing. And then that player dies or their career ends, and that amp is now $200,000-$300,000, and it goes to somebody that can afford it, and it's just an amp.
Yeah,
that extension is like broken, you know. So it's all just it's spending time and connecting with that thing and finding sounds, and
So if we switch to talking a little bit about drumming.
Sure.
I mean, right now we have it's a
That's a Birch Tama kit.
Tama kit, yeah.
But I also have the Ludwig kit from the early 70s. It's 3-fly. It's really big sizes, like 20-inch floor tom, 18-inch floor tom, 24 and big rec toms. But that one's really round and fat and gushy. This one's more punchy and attacky.
It's good for speed. Yeah.
I like smaller kick drums for faster music, especially. And it's for some reason I feel like it's not, it never lacks low end. It's more in the snappiness and character.
Yeah, and if that fundamental's too low, then it's when you play too many notes, it just gets muddy.
Yeah. So you mostly do drum sessions from here, or do you go to other places?
Yeah, I mean, occasionally we'll go someplace, but I mean, why hire 2 people when you can hire 1 person now? And we got a Neve desk and tape and a bunch of outboard gear, so we can do a lot of damage here. But yeah, I mean, I can do pop rock sessions. I really like to do more heavy music. That's what I've learned from coming out here. It's like when you're first starting out, you kind of are a yes man. And you try to take as many opportunities as you can just so you can pay rent and things. But then as time goes on, it gets fatiguing and you kind of settle into what got you excited about music in the first place when you're in your formative years. And for me, that was heavy metal. So that's what we're trying to shift our focus towards now is finding bands, both locally and that will come to us, or taking on projects that need a drummer or just mixing or tracking, whatever, but that are in the genre that we're interested in.
Yeah.
So you would say, I mean, I know what I think, but would you say it's a good idea to niche down in some way, either if it's genre-wise or something else, like you guys are trying to get more into do proper analog recordings?
I think it's more gratifying, and if you do a good job, it'll lead to more of that same work. So if you take let's say you hate country music and you take a country music gig and you knock it out of the park, you're going to get more country music gigs.
That's true.
And that's how you want.
Yeah.
So
just whatever you're working on, always do 150%, but realize the repercussions of doing that. So like what Sam just said, but yeah, us, I think we've been saving our money and working other jobs just so we can get all the analog stuff. Cause I mean, software's fun and all, but I want something that is going to work every day. I don't want to worry about updates and subscriptions and all this other shit. My goal, I mean, Sam's got different session stuff, but mine is just bring in local punk bands, squeeze as many people in here as we can, track live, and overdub vocals and overdub with second guitar or something. But, get as much as the raw organic sound that's there, and then just polish it up as best we can with the gear that we have.
Sounds like a philosophy that I can be on board with.
Yeah.
So, do you still do, is it open for the public yet, or are you working on stuff?
We haven't had like an official opening, so we've got the supply and take-up motor, the tape machine are getting fixed up. Once those are fixed, we'll do like a little soft opening just to let people in the area know like we're open. But yeah, I'd say before mid 2025 for sure we'll be fully online and taking sessions. So
that's cool.
Yeah.
And does the studio have a name, like online presence or something?
We call it Ruff Records.
Ruff Records.
Yeah, it's a little goofy sounding, but
no space.
I like it. Yeah, no space. So just our last name and then records.
Right now our website's super outdated, so don't look us up yet.
But yeah, we got a website. You can contact us through there. We both have social media accounts too. But
Ruff is easy to find.
Yeah.
RUFF.
Yeah. F is in Frank.
But how do you feel if we pedal back a little bit to you guys coming to Los Angeles? Do you feel, even if you haven't like officially opened your studio yet to commercially, do you feel like it's been a good idea to come here? Have you gotten anything out of it? Or
yeah, I mean, for me, and it's probably just me, I'm more like I love the history. So like hopping on Facebook Marketplace in LA is wildly different than hopping on Facebook Marketplace in Ohio. And I can find like old Yuri gear where maybe it's only, $300-500 and I get it and I flip it around and on the back it says made in North Hollywood. It's like, that's where I am. Or you pick up your favorite record and it's like, made in, somewhere else in the valley. So to me, that's just cool that, I mean, Fender used to be out here. There's a lot of different amp companies. So I just like that part of the history, even though it's tough to carry that on with, rising rent and population.
Yeah, that was my next question. I mean, it's obviously a lot more expensive to live here, I guess, than in Ohio.
Yeah.
Do you feel that the location and the connections you get here makes up for that.
I would say so. I mean, we've made tons of connections, and it's cool because it's people that it's not just like a one and done thing. It's like, this is my project now, and I'm gonna hit you up again when I got this new thing, or I quit that band and I'm starting this other thing, and like I need your help. So there's a lot more things in flow out here, I would say.
What would your advice be to anyone that would want to do, maybe not necessarily move here, but to like just get involved in the music industry? Should they move to a bigger area, or can they do it like in smaller rural areas? Or
I think it depends what your goals are, because in the smaller areas, obviously your overhead is a lot lower, so it can be more, it can be more affordable to do it that way, and maybe longer runway for you to do it. But coming out here, I think, or to Nashville or to Austin or New Orleans, New York, wherever, I think you have to just decide what you want, because there's so many different ways your career can go. And when you come to a city that has a big entertainment industry, like the people I've graduated with, some people moved out here and it's so spread out what they're doing. And like some of them are happy and some of them aren't. But that's up to you to decide like what is really gratifying for you. What do you want to do? And you can work in a studio, you can be a sideman, you can work in music software, you can work in music supervision. Like there's a lot of different lanes you can take. So it's really up to you to decide whether it's worth it or not. And like for me, if I didn't have my brother out here to do this with me, it probably wouldn't have worked. It wouldn't have made sense, or it would have been more
In the box.
I'd be in the box. Yeah. But yeah, it's a case by case scenario, and I think everybody's career is different. Everybody has a different path, and I mean, we're still going down ours. I'm still in the beginnings.
I've seen a couple things floating around on social media that are like, LA's cool because like the black sheep from every family, like the lone creative comes out here, and now it's this city full of them. And like to me, that's what's worth it. Like no matter the industry you're in, like it's just like, because you can be out here with other creative people, feeling your way around trying to figure out what sticks, and it's, if something's fucked and you tried it for 5 years and it's not working, it's easy to pivot without having to move, So I think that's the part that's attracted to me versus staying in something that's a little more isolated, or staying where you were born and raised or whatever. But I mean, for holidays and stuff, we still go back home. It's not we don't ditch the fam, but yeah.
But what you said is probably what I like best about it. Is when I get fatigued of being on tour or on the road too much, or I get fatigued of being in a submarine studio too much, I can always do the next thing. Like I come back from the road and I'm in the studio, and I get fatigued from that, I can go and teach. I can do, like, there's so many ways, and you kind of have to have multiple streams of income to make it work. Like Eddie does so many repairs and is not only building amps in his own gear, but fixing other people's shit. If he gets tired from that, he can do sessions, and he can do other, like, having multiple. It's all creative, but it's easy to burn out if you're only doing one thing. But if you kind of divvy it up between multiple things, you not only diversify your income, but you diversify your creativity. I think you can last longer that way.
That's actually, that's a good, that's also a little bit like I'm trying to pivot into doing more of that too. It's like I've gone through different phases before. Earlier, I tried to study a little bit, work a little bit, and do studio stuff at the same time, and I got crazy. It's like, I have to focus on one thing, and then I did that, and now that I feel I have that thing going, now I can start like dipping my toes in different things. So I think that's also just a matter of knowing how you're built and make sure that you can give full focus on everything that you're doing.
And just follow what you're passionate about. I mean, I started building amps in high school, and I was chasing the Eddie Van Halen sound, and just wanting to learn more about what the fuck was going on with circuits. That's when school kicked in, and I was like, I'll just do electrical engineering. And then you get like way too much in the weeds on that, and then you kind of have to pull back and be like, wait, why did I want to be here? And then you realign yourself, and then you go after it again. So yeah.
One last question. You came here trying to start your own thing. I know a lot of other stories where people come here and they try to get on like assistant work, or what's your take on that? Who want to start?
When I was leaving my master's program, that was my goal, was to be an assistant at a studio. And I was actually discouraged from doing that, and because you have to kind of start at the bottom and make your way up. You start as a runner, and then you're maybe sitting in on sessions, and then you're assistant, and then 5 years later, I mean, we know people who have worked at the same studio for 10 plus years, and they're still getting there at 7 a.m. and they're still leaving at 10 p.m. at night.
And their desk is a little desk in the corner.
Little desk in the corner, and maybe they're barely credited on a big album, and nobody knows it's up to you. So maybe that's really gratifying for them, but for me, like, that wasn't appealing. I'd rather be more in control and work on things that I really want to and have a bigger hand in the creative process than be. But to play devil's advocate,
building up your own like capital of gear and stuff like that.
sure. I mean,
guess,
things will appreciate. That makes sense too. But like at the same time, it's so important to find like a mentor and learn from people. Like you said earlier, like one of the main goals of moving out here was to find the people who made the records that we love and to learn from them and learn the way that they did things. So there's a tremendous value in learning from those people, because like you learn a bunch of stuff in school, but you don't really learn until you come out and you actually start doing it for real.
Yeah, hands on. For me, it boils down to like 3 things. Like rule number 1, don't be a dick. Like in all things that you do. Rule number 2, listen. Like it's often more valuable just to be a fly on the wall in the back and just listen, because there's probably people smarter, better than you in the room doing their thing. So you can pick up on that. Rule number 3, just try to bring something to the table. Yeah. You might not be the best at it, but like that's the thing that other people will pick up on, and they'll be like, you know what? I'll try them because I think they have that skill. And then if they get, that's the best part about being out here. You get a shot eventually. Like eventually, if you keep at it, those opportunities come down the line, and then you'll give that 150%. And then if it goes well, more things come through the door. So that's kind of how things open up, and you meet new people, you meet the people you wanted to meet, like all those things kind of start happening. So for the support stuff I do at Sound Theory, we get tens of thousands of tickets every year, and the people that write in that are real nice, and I can help them, they can help me, like that stuff goes over smooth. I remember them. But I also remember the people that write in and they're not in the best mood, they're grumpy about eye lock or something, and it's like, just take a breath, take a step back. Nobody's got to be a dick here. Like I'll walk your hand, I'll hold your hand through it. And
I mean that's also a good point. I mean, as you said, you're working with
I just do support at Sound Theory.
So that's basically like service work. You hold people's hands and make sure they get their things working, and that's basically what it is, working as a producer too.
But it's comical. Like it's 2024, and like my support job at Sound Theory still exists even with AI, because we haven't made it easy enough with activating and deactivating plugins, and it's like, so
that's not, I get crazy sometimes.
Yeah, it's not like analog gear where there's just one on switch and you just so. But I like helping people, whether it's in person or online, whatever. And at the end of the day, software and analog, it's all tools. And it all goes back to hopefully that cool riff or that cool song that's in your head that you're trying to flesh out and get out there.
I'm thinking if I do a little handheld camera, if you guys want to just show me around the studio, and
Sure.
quick story about some
Sam Vision.
cool stuff.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
So this is like a mid-'80s Neve. It was originally commissioned for CBS, and that was sort of like daytime. I think it was the Carol Burnett show. Changed hands a little bit after that, but in 2018, it was kind of just sitting in the storage unit, and we bought it. Cheaper than you think. It's definitely not as costly as an 80 series Neve. This is an 82 48, so 48 channels. We've been through everything. We've recapped everything. We've lubed everything. Did even some ultrasonic cleaning. When we first turned it on, like we only had a couple of the BU meter lamps even illuminating, so everything's lit up now. Nice.
It's been shown a lot of love by this guy.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the cool thing. Things that were built well by companies that kind of no longer exist. If you take care of them, it's like a classic car. That thing is ready to roar, and it'll treat you right. So lots of custom Mogami cabling in the back there. It's sort of a spaghetti mess back behind it, but we've got the patch bay all normaled so that you can go mic into the mic transformer on the desk. That normals into the tape machine, and then that spits it back out to Pro Tools. And then the beauty of this is there's literally one button where you can change from track mode to mix mode, where you can take your Pro Tools session and fan it back out on the desk and start working on your next. So it's pretty streamlined, and it's a really nice feeling to not have to constantly look at a screen, and you kind of can play with everything on your mix with your hands, and it's I would say a way better workflow. So,
But this is
recall's not really great.
This is
but-
a one room setup, right? So you have
yeah.
drums.
This is what should be the master bedroom of this house, and it's a huge bedroom at that. It's more like a living room size. So I think it's like 22 feet long, and the console itself is 11 feet.
Mm.
We're kind of
So that's 60.
yeah, I think it's 22 by 16. So our whole life, we've kind of always been like a one room operation. There was a brief moment where we used like 2 bedrooms, where one was a control room and the other was a lounge. Yeah, back in Ohio. But we're used to it. It makes dialing in sounds a little bit tricky, but what we've figured out is that you can record. So like if Sam's playing drums, record through the console, dump it to Pro Tools, bring it back out
On the line in.
dial
In the EQ that way.
Yeah.
and then
Switch it back
print it.
and track through that you just dialed in.
So there's definitely workarounds to make it work a little bit better. But a lot of the amps and cabs are not in this room because we try and keep this room sort of open.
Only bring in what you need.
Yeah. So if you're doing bass, you
those
can
are
bring in
nice.
This is a modded one too.
all that stuff.
But yeah, you have like what, 18 different tube amps here.
Yeah, we got a bunch of different 2x12s with really, tastefully selected speakers that are. We've got black batch speakers and an old Marshall. We've got all sorts of different stuff to get different sounds. Because in my opinion,
Bunch of Mesas.
70% of a guitar sound is the cab. So, bunch of different cabs, bunch of different heads. Most of them are high gain. A lot of them are really suited for like one particular type of, they're one trick hummies, but they do that job really well. So
I enjoy one trick ponies. I rather have an amp, and if it doesn't do what I want, I don't want to stand there just turning knobs. Then I change for another amp.
Exactly. Yeah. And like a lot of stuff it's not like, super unattainable. Like sometimes that solid state amp by Peavey that everybody thinks sounds like shit is actually really cool. When you get the right mic on it.
Goes to the uniqueness thing.
Yeah. There's lots of cool sounds floating out there that people are sleeping on. So
Should we talk about outboard gear?
Yes, sure. Do it.
Some of these things you built, like this 4-channel tube DI down here,
Oh, tube DI.
which is kind of based off of the red DI, the Ready, but with his modifications. There's some push and pulls stuff going on here.
we call it the Brule because we love
Dr. Stephen Brule.
We've got a weird sense of humor.
Some other cool stuff. This came from Barefoot, which is closed now. That 162. Department of Commerce is pretty neat. Bunch of AMS stuff, which is fun.
Yeah, and we tried to group it by like there's a lot of starting at the compacts going on down. Those are just stereo compressors. So we've got different values there, and then we got a couple just cheapo effects things. There's nothing wrong with the SPX90. There's lots of fun presets on there. The BL40 is really really cool.
Slept on for sure.
Oh, what is that?
It's basically like an LA3A into an 1176 on limit.
Oh.
And you can dial and
I never even heard of it.
The originals, so it's by Yuri, but the originals wouldn't have knobs on the front. They were kind of installed in FM radio stations, so that
What's set settings?
it's literally the radio compression where they'd set it and it would just get the voice and everything would run through it. So that one's been modified so that it has the knobs on
like
it.
Kolka.
Yeah, David Kolka does those mods, and then
I think CLA used one of those a lot on the vocal, American Idiot, or something like that.
a vocal through there is pretty cool, pretty slim for sure.
That little cassette machine's underrated too down there.
What is that?
Little TX.
Yeah, we're cutting through the first owner. That was wild. It was still in its box and sealed. It's true.
With is the remote for that one or for
That's
that?
for the 4-track.
Yeah.
He built this too. This little 4-channel guy named after North Hollywood.
Yeah, I call that the NoHo. That's sort of like an oddball. It's got like Neve transformers, but PPI discrete op amps in there.
That's cool.
And then some parallel Sheldon EQs. So lots of funky stuff there. On top of it is like that tiny little guy is a Fairchild.
Little Fairchild. Shout out to Eric Brower, who gave us that.
Yeah, we fixed that up. That's like an optical compressor, basically.
Shout
A
out.
lot of people don't know Fairchild made a lot of junk,
Yeah.
but they also made a lot of really cool stuff too. So
Shout out to Joe Barisi who gave us the spring reverb that he fixed up.
Oh, really?
Lost Text. Pretty fun.
yeah, meeting Joe is definitely he's one of the OGs that's still out here, and like the amount of knowledge you can pick up from him is just insane.
He's definitely opened our minds.
Yeah, he's worked on so many cool records that we look up to, and he's got a really cool place in Pasadena, and it's like he's just a good hang. Like you can just go hang out with him and just ask him questions, and he'll tell you whatever you want to know. And that's the stuff that I'm most keen on picking up, like because all my favorite records were done a certain way, so I'd like to learn that way before it's just like a forgotten, a lost art.
We definitely came to him. Like I thought I knew how to mix, and then he took it and just turned it on its head. And now like my entire mixing workflow is totally different based off what he's showed us.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I dare putting myself through that.
He's awesome, man. Awesome.
So you want to show this too?
Yeah. It's definitely just a prototype, but this is one of the amps that I built. I really focus on trying to make like the layout nice and big and dumb so that it's like you don't have to squint your eyes and be like, what is this? And it's not as tweaky as like a Mesa Boogie Mark series where there's a bunch of push pulls and everything.
Yeah.
So these 6 knobs here, you can think of it just like a standard vintage Marshall. It's all the same type of controls and tone stack. But really where the uniqueness comes in are we have these 3 different switches here, and all 3 of these are 3-way switches. If they're in the middle, they're essentially bypass. And the switch itself is no different than a 3-way pickup selector on like a guitar. So it's a nice beefy switch that you flick up and down. But the bottom is a low switch, and then the other 2 are bright switches. And those happen really early on in the circuit when your guitar gets plugged in. So unlike a normal Marshall, there's 1 extra gain stage, the 12AX7, and those bright switches are early on in the circuit. Marshall typically would put that bright cap like piggybacked across the volume so that as you're changing the volume, that brightness is more or less affected. This is in a different part of the circuit, so if it's in, you're going to hear it. And it's really cool because you can stack bright switches and lows and really tailor it to the type of playing guitar that you're using. So 50 watt amp, power sections, KT66s. And yeah, it's a pretty cool sounding amp. It's really tight. It's really good on heavy music. And hence the look, like blackout. So old school 1950s Bakelite knobs too.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Like real backlight knobs or?
Yeah. I was able to find this like warehouse in Utah that had a couple thousand in stock, and I just bought 50 or something. So. I mean, the last thing I'll say is like a good chunk, they're not all out here, but a good chunk of the microphones are DIY. So like the C414s on top, those are DIY. Raft capsule. Those have a Moby transformer in them, and the capsule is by it's out of Australia, OPR. There's a lot of debate on like OPR and Han capsules, and it's getting harder to find like a good C12 type capsule. But yeah, those I built. There's a pair of U47 tube mics that we built. And then there's the pair on top of the P12 with C12s. Look, that sub kick. The sub kicks an oddball too. So it's an Equator D5, right? That's just your normal little near field. We're only using the woofer. And instead of just a normal sub kick where you just go straight out, we're actually running through a 40 hertz band pass UTC transformer. So you get an extra little oomph from that vintage transformer there, right at 40 hertz.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.